Right, good folks.
folks.
We
We
are
are
getting
getting
situated
situated
here for
here
you
for you
guys.
guys.
How
How
is
is
everyone
everyone
doing?
doing? I've just been informed that I have to move off the steps now, so we're going to do that here in a second. Um,
Okay,
okay,
yep,
yep,
I
I
just
just
need
need
to
to
move
move
stuff.
stuff.
So
So,
let me do that.
all right, good folks. Thank you guys so
So
much
much
for
for
tuning
tuning in.
in. We got
Multiple
multiple
devices
devices
here,
here,
multiple
multiple
cameras
cameras
going.
going.
You
You
guys know
guys know
how we
how
do
we do
it. We
it.
don't
We
have
don't
the
have the
fancy
fancy
cameras,
cameras,
but
but
we're
we're
still
still
going
going
to
to
bring
bring
you
you
all
all
the
the
news
news
as
as
it's
it's
happening.
happening. Um, oh, Lord. All
All right,
right, so they're pushing us further out the door, folks. So
just
give
give
me
me
one
one
second
second
here.
here. You
You
guys
guys
know
know
how
how
it
it
goes.
goes. So
So
just
just
stay
stay
tuned, and
tuned.
we're going to try to
See
see
where
where
we
we
can
can
actually
actually
set
set
up.
up.
So
So
we
we
didn't
didn't
get an
get an
invite
invite
inside,
inside,
and
and
now
now
they're
they're
kicking
kicking
us
us
down
down
the.
they're
They're
kicking
kicking
us
us
down
down the
the
way a
way a
bit.
bit.
How
How
far
far
down do
down
you
do you
need
need
me?
me? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So we're just going to get
So we're just
situated
gonna get
here, good
situated
folks,
here, good
so
folks,
that
so that
we can be ready.
we
Can I
can be
use
ready.
your
Can I use
little
your
case here?
case here?
You let me
You
know.
let me know.
Yes, I'm good.
Good.
All right,
All right,
folks.
folks.
Maureen,
Maureen,
thank you
thank
so
you
much
so
for
much for
tuning in.
tuning
Let
in.
me
Let me
just
just
get
get
set
set
up,
up,
folks, and
and
then
then
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
catch
catch
some of
some
the
of the
proceedings
proceedings
here
here
for
for
you.
you.
Make sure
Make
that you
sure that
guys
you
don't
guys
miss
don't miss
out,
out.
because I know not everyone, hey, was able to come out today. So let me just grab um, my keys and stuff that are over here. So just a quick reminder, folks, that we are here for the opening of the what is now moving from the Legislative Assembly to the Parliament. This is the official opening. So we'll bring it to you guys live. So just hold on one second. Yeah, moving. Thanks. All right, folks. Trying to flip the camera here. Give me one second so you guys can all see this. Ta-da-da-da-da-da. There it is, good folks. Let me let me just do this way. Oops.
Sorry,
Sorry
guys.
guys, give me one second.
All right, folks, just joining in. This is the official opening of Cayman Islands Parliament. So, have some feedback going on here. As you guys know, I think I muted the second device. So hopefully that helps with audio. But this is the official opening. I think I'm still getting some feedback. Just give me one second here, folks. I'm going to kill one of these feeds. I'm going to So inside, just to update you guys, they're doing all of the sort of official stuff that's going on. But of course, the list for media, no one should be surprised by that. Um, it is what it is, folks. But guess what? They're not going to stop us from. This is your business. This is the people's business, and we are here for it. So let me just see here. Got multiple. That's why we're getting a little bit of feedback here. But I will try to adjust the audio situation. All right, so RCIPS is on their best behavior. We have overflow constitutional hall. So anyone who's able to attend that did not get an official invite to sit in the Legislative Assembly, that was a very exclusive list, you would go to the overflow, which is in Constitutional Hall. So Regiment is here, as we can see, as well as the RCIPS for their parading. They always do a good job with this sort of stuff. There are people who come out from like the courthouse and stuff as well. A few bailiffs and lawyers. They're in what's happening because this is a historical moment. These were constitutional changes that brought this about. And good. Regiment looks good. They're waiting for the big wigs to come out of the alley so that we did a sneak peek of the sign already. So you guys are the first ones to see that sign even before it's unveiled. Isn't that awesome? That's what Seymour does. Um, the wind was in her favor. So we could see the House of Parliament sign, which they've been working on for the last few days. Got here a number of days ago. Putting this sign up. Lots of people here to pull this event off today. And so we wait. Crystal. I'm actually getting an tripod for this iPad that I'm using today, which will make the shaking go away and a lot easier. So bear with me, folks, as we level up on our technology to make all. Let me see if I can make one small change. Not sure if it's going to make a difference in the audio. Um, but let's see. Of course, most media is here. Wendy isn't. I don't know where Wendy isn't here, but all of the media, even Cayman Times, was allowed inside, but not Cayman Islands. See what I can do about this audio issue.
Right. 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 Hey.
There's the Speaker of the House, folks. He finally appeared. He was hiding out yesterday, but he's not hiding today.
All right. Right. Hey. That is it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I killed one of the feeds only because I think for audio purposes, it's going to make it more of a pleasant experience for you guys. We might bring that feed back in at some point and see how that goes.
All right. All right. Hold up. General salute. Raise hand. Up. Right. Hold up.
Okay, folks, so there's Speaker of the House and the
Right.
Honorable Premier,
Hold up.
and his wife is going inside. And I'm guessing he's
Stand
probably going to be
up.
waiting
Easy.
perhaps for the governor to arrive.
Stand easy.
Okay, folks, so it looks like that vehicle was supposed to be coming in this direction, but for some reason they're backing up. So Alfonso, right, who I guess is one of the organizers, is going back to tell them to come in the right direction. You guys know Cayman Road can bring you all of this and all the behind the scenes happening. So, nothing is going to pass our eagle eye. So he's getting instructions on how to come forward, bring the vehicle this way, go in the wrong direction. Um, Looks like they might have gotten the memo, and we're going to get it right this time. Rehearsal must have been fun. All right. One good thing about these officers, they are well adjusted in terms of just keeping a straight face no matter what is going on. So there they're having a discussion then there in the logistics of how this is going to happen. There's Alfonso and who else? But
Right.
an officer they're speaking to said, "Come on, you're supposed to bring."
All right. Shut.
But in the meantime, here comes the governor, folks. So the governor is arriving. Let's see if they get this one right. Mr. Bush will be receiving the governor with the premier. There he is, his lovely wife, Miss Lizzie. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, gorgeous.
Right. Hold up. General salute. Royal salute. Raise hand. Up. Right. Shoulder. Up. Order. Up. Sir, parade is formed up. We're ready for your inspection. Sir.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And so this is tradition, folks. The governor will do a little walkthrough and do an inspection of the regiment as well as officers. Absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, Your Excellency. I'm Lieutenant Hudson Farley, Detachment Commander, Cayman Islands Regiment. Detachment consists of one officer, one armed officer, and 10 troops ready and awaiting your inspection. Sir, please.
So he's inspecting the regiment first. One female. No, I think there's more than one female. Is that just one female? Oh, only one female. Okay, good for her. Awesome. I'd like to see more than one, of course, but this one is certainly a start, I suppose. Yes, carry on, carry on. There we go. And now he's going to go and inspect the police team over on the other side of here. Thank you, Louie, for tuning in. How you doing? Yes, tradition is important, you know, folks. Tradition is very important. Um,
Sir, go this way. No, this way. Sir.
okay, he's instructing, but somebody forgot to turn off his mic. So his mic is picking all that up. Hey, Nancy, what's up? Miss Nancy's here in the house. Everybody looks nice and sharp. They good. Check him out. Everybody looking good. The premier and the speaker over there with an officer. Panel discussion. You ever wonder what they talk about at these events? Like, do you think the premier's like, so, Mac, how was court yesterday? What do you think's going to be the outcome? After the ceremony, they'll talk about it. Do you think they really talk about it? Do you think the premier has ever sat down with him and said, boy, you know, Mac, he causing me a lot of issues here. Yes, boss. You're making me look bad because I can't speak out on you. You gotta have a sense of humor, folks. You gotta have a sense of humor. Lots of photographers and camera people here capturing this moment. Over. Oh my God. I love that comment. He probably did say that to him. He probably did say, did you see Sandy?
All right.
She been looking for me.
Shoulder.
They're
Royal salute.
got their bayonets and
Return.
swords. Nice. Nice. Love it.
Right. Shoulder. Order.
Okay. And now he is going to join the governor. The governor, Martin Roper, is going to join the premier and the speaker. And off they go inside of the what will now be House of Parliament. And don't forget, folks, you guys saw it here. There's like a sneak peek of that sign. So there they are. Miss Lizzie is behind. Lovely. Gorgeous.
Right. I'll hand it over for your command. So.
Jamilia's having a good laugh at that comment. Um, having a bad day. Imagine the poor woman who got beat up by him, how she feels. She's having a bad year, no doubt. But anywho, we can have those discussions after the fact.
Break! Shoulder! Up! Close order! What? Move to the right and five. Right! Come on. Move. Come on. Come on.
folks, so that part of the processions is finished. And let's see what else is going on. In the Legislative Assembly, we're going to try to pull through that feed here in a second, but they will get the actual proceedings underway. So finally, this vehicle drives through, which I think is what he was supposed to do earlier. And then we'll see how all of that goes. They do some um, monitors out here, but we're going to pull the feed in, I think, from the computer. And then we should be good to go. You guys can watch the proceedings. Like I said, they wouldn't let us in there, but that's okay. We're still got you covered, folks. We still got you covered. So let me just get to the laptop and pull that in for all of you. So just give me one quick second here, and we're gonna get this underway. My knee is killing me, folks, as you guys know. After the little incident the other day, I had a little injury to go along with it, but it was all worth trying to save my little Coco. We still didn't make this. God. Hold on one second here.
All right. Oh, oh, that's without it being.
Okay, give me one second.
Someone in the room.
Let me just see if I can pull this up. All right, folks, just one second.
Please be seated.
Proclamation summoning the first meeting of the Parliament. Proclamation number 4 of 2020 by His Excellency Martin Roper, Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, Governor of the Cayman Islands. Whereas Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands provides that the sessions of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall be held at such places and begin at such times as the Governor may from time to time by proclamation appoint. Now therefore I, Martin Roper, OBE, Governor of the Cayman Islands, by virtue of the powers conferred upon me by Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands, hereby proclaim that a session of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall begin and be held at the House of Parliament, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, at 2:30 p.m. on the 4th day of December 2020, and shall thereafter continue until such date and time as the Parliament may adjourn hereto. Given under my hand and the public seal of the Cayman Islands at Georgetown in the island of Grand Cayman, this 24th day of November in the year of our Lord 2020, in the 69th year of the reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Administration of oaths or affirmations.
None.
Reading by the Honorable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
Thank you. Honorable members, I do have gracious messages from colleagues throughout the region. This message comes from the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, ON, MP, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands have enjoyed decades of strong relations. I therefore consider it a great privilege on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica to extend heartfelt congratulations to the government of the Cayman Islands as you officially adopt the Cayman Islands Constitution Amendment Order 2020. Over the years, the Cayman Islands have forged a strong democratic tradition and has distinguished itself as an economically thriving nation within the Caribbean region. These are important achievements of which your country must immensely proud. With the passage of the amendment, you now have even greater autonomy and can more strategically pursue the policies and principles that best suit your needs in the modern era. As an implication of the amendment, you will now have a parliament, the Cayman Islands, replacing your legislative assembly. This is no doubt an historic development, and Jamaica welcomes the opportunity to celebrate with you. I am certain that our years of excellent relations, friendships, and familial bonds will remain strong as you embark upon this new journey. I look forward to our continued cooperation for the advancement of our peoples, and I give you the assurance of our continued highest regard. Jamaica celebrates with you on this momentous occasion and sends you our very best wishes for continued peace and prosperity. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, ON, MP, Prime Minister of Jamaica. From the Premier of Bermuda, on behalf of the government and people of Bermuda, I wish to congratulate Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, and the government of the Cayman Islands on the occasion of the first meeting of the newly named Parliament of the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands Constitutional Amendment Order 2020 brings significant benefits to the Cayman Islands and provides for broader consultation under your constitution, and we applaud this progress. Best wishes to the government and people of the Cayman Islands as you advance your islands under your new constitution and legislative body. We look forward to continuing to strengthen the relationship between our territories as we all continue to navigate through the coronavirus pandemic. I wish health and safety to your islands. Yours sincerely, the Honorable E. David G. Burt, JP, MP, Premier. Message from the Prime Minister, Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I deem it a great honor and privilege to have been invited by Premier the Honorable Alden McLaughlin to share in the commemoration of the achievement of this significant milestone in the history and development of the Cayman Islands. The coming into effect of the Cayman Islands Constitution Amendment Order 2020 marks the culmination of a journey which began many years ago on 4th of July 1959, when self-government was ushered in. Subsequent constitutional changes in 1972, 1993, and 2009 each advanced the fulfillment of the aspirations of the government and people closer and on the path to full self-determination. The establishment of a full autonomous parliament of the Cayman Islands is a significant step in that process and to the broadening of democracy. The commemoration of this historic accomplishment inspires reflections on some notable events and their contributions to this moment in time. The women's suffrage movement and the right to vote in 1959. The Cayman National Cultural Foundation, established in 1984, which is responsible for the preservation and promotion of the Cayman Islands folk music, festivals, and cultural traditions, and notable Caymanians in the field of politics, business, education, sports, arts, and culture. The economy of the Bahamas and the Cayman Islands share two important similarities: financial services and tourism, which has contributed significantly to our economic development and the improvement of the lives of our people. We also share mutual support in the time of natural disasters and dialogue and collaboration through our membership in the Cayman and the Caribbean community. I am pleased to join in the commemoration of this historic occasion, the first meeting of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands. This importance advance in democracy. Hubert A. Minnis, Prime Minister. Prime Minister's Office, Barbados. It is my pleasure, on behalf of the government and people of Barbados, to offer sincere congratulations to the government and people of the Cayman Islands on this, the first sitting of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands. It is clear that the leadership of your nation recognizes that in today's complex and dynamic world, success cannot be achieved if systems are not characterized by an atmosphere of creativity and nimbleness, and in which across the board involvement is encouraged and valued. The constitutional reforms that ushered in your new parliament, and which are no doubt designed to strengthen democracy through greater autonomy and broader people participation, provide an improved opportunity for the building of more meaningful and rewarding relations with your CARICOM neighbors. Government and people of Barbados assure you that we will do all within our power to build on the tradition of harmony and cooperation that has existed between our nations for generations, and which was exemplified in our own cooperation since the events of the pandemic. The repeated episodes of trauma occasioned by this pandemic have been our reality over the past year, and therefore our ability to work together has been something that has pleased us greatly. The government and people of Barbados, which only the best for each and every one of you in the Cayman Islands as you embark on this renewed journey. May God bless you all. Thank you. The Honorable Mia Amor Motley, QC MP, Prime Minister of Barbados. The Chief Minister, Government of Gibraltar. On behalf of Her Majesty's Government of Gibraltar and the member of the Gibraltar Parliament, it gives me great pleasure to salute the people of the Cayman Islands, the members of your distinguished Parliament, the government of the Cayman Islands, and not least our good friend and colleague, the Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin. Our heartfelt congratulations on your achievement of constitutional reform, on rights to self-determination and to modern democratic self-government are precious and come with both responsibility and benefit. A constitution must reflect those modern rights of people and protect them, our economies, and our chosen way of life. Looked at from a distance, sometimes political history often seems to move slowly, simmering along until things come to a head, provoked sometimes by the impact of new technologies or by the unwelcome action of powerful countries and the force of nature. Gibraltar, Cayman, and our fellow British overseas territories have been working hard together to protect our people in the face of major challenges this year, such as Brexit and COVID-19. Our relationship with the United Kingdom must always be governed by mutual respect and shared values, and those are not just words. Through the bonds that we have forged between us all, the territories constitute a great asset for British interests and therefore our own interests. On this deserved Red Letter Day, Gibraltar sends its best wishes to the beautiful Cayman Islands and the magnificent people of the Cayman Islands. Fabian Ricardo, QC, MP, Chief Minister. Now, from the Ambassador Irvin LaRocque, Secretary General CARICOM, on the occasion of the first meeting of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands, 4th December 2020. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, it is my pleasure to be part of this landmark day in the history of the Cayman Islands. Today, you join Bermuda and Gibraltar as the only British overseas territories to have a legislative body known as Parliament. The Cayman Islands is an associate member of the Caribbean community that is renowned for its adherence to parliamentary democracy, and today's ceremony further underlines this well-earned reputation. When the United Kingdom Privy Council formalized the change last month, it marked another step in the political growth and maturity of the Cayman Islands. It has been a long journey from the first meeting of democratically elected representatives of the territory 189 years ago, who on the 31st of December 1831 became the Assembly of Justices and Vestry. They were the forerunners of the Legislative Assembly, which has been the forum for making laws since July 1959, and which comes to an end today. You, the members of Parliament in the chamber today, are making your own history. On behalf of the Caribbean community, I congratulate you all and the government and people of the Cayman Islands on this momentous occasion. Don't worry, I shan't be long. Honorable members, on the historic closure of the 1959-2020 Legislative Assembly, members all had an opportunity to mark that auspicious occasion. And you did. It was historic. I don't believe that any Speaker of the House in the Commonwealth ever sat for 6.5 hours without taking a break. So, indeed, it was historic in many ways. We don't have much time on this part of the agenda, but I don't speak generally on matters, and it's only on these kinds of occasions my standing order says I can, as Speaker, give a message to the Honorable House, and I crave your indulgence to do so at this time. Honorable members, today is a landmark for our islands and a monumental day as we convene as a parliament the legacy of our transformative constitutional framework creates the transition from legislative assembly to that of parliament, a stronger democracy. Let me firstly congratulate the Honorable Premier, who has worked assiduously to get the historic amendments we are given today. Something the Foreign Office declared over the years would not have been happening again after Bermuda. So I gladly welcome this maturing process. I want to thank also the Deputy Governor and Mrs. Gloria McField-Nixon for the role they have played to get us where we are. Some of our detractors might be so lightheaded and poke fun at this moment in history, questioning in the most insulting way. Honorable members, to me, becoming a parliament is a maturing process from where we were. It's about the separation of power, one of the highest tenets of democracy. The separation of our legislature from that of the executive arm of our government is involved here at this time. Being a member here for over 36 years, I have some very fond memories of sitting in this honorable house in meetings and times that gave and still provide me with some levity when I think of them. I've seen and heard some very thoughtful ways of not heeding to the advice of the chair. Just recently, I spoke to a matter which a member, while speaking, was trying to raise at the time. I was asking for his cooperation. Much crosstalk. But I thought the leader of the opposition wasn't about for the opposition bench to not have its say on the matter. So I further sent a note to the leader of the opposition, who it seemed was going to ignore that, when he said, "But you know, Mr. Speaker, you have the worst handwriting. I can't understand a word you said." Another time, in the 1990s, I was debating what was being heckled from the government bench, and with attempts to distract me, but I managed to continue my points. At least 3 members of the government left the chamber saying, "We don't have to listen to you." In those days, the backbench had the majority. When those 3 members left, I moved a suspension of the standing orders to allow me to complete my speech. That motion was carried and I continued. In those days, we could speak for 4 hours, but my suspension was to complete my speech. The House adjourned, as it usually did, 4:30 p.m. The next morning, 10 a.m., I was still continuing when Mr. Benson came in and said, "Boy, you must only have about 10 minutes left." So I happily said, "No, sir, sorry, but I'm carrying on." And the speaker had to relate to him that I had suspended standing orders to complete my speech. Oh, but they were livid. And I think I spoke for the balance of the day, all very relevant. Important to note, since 1984, some changes have been made, constitutional changes from Executive Council to the first ever cabinet of the Cayman Islands in 1994. And I think only two of us, a member from Savannah and myself, remains in the House today from that first cabinet. I have always believed we must have a formalized leader of government, but it was a battle to get any change. Mr. Smith, I believe he was knighted since, a learned Barbadian counsel, was the Cayman constitutional advisor, and he tried for days to convince me to support the creation of a chief minister, but the governor were to appoint him from amongst members. I disagreed with that, as did others, and so the 1989-1992 recommendations fell away. In 2002-2003, we received from Governor Dinwiddie, who agreed for changes that made us constitutionally recognize the leader of government business and the leader of the opposition. Myself as the leader of government business and Mr. Kurt as the leader of the opposition. But they refused me any number of parliamentary secretaries. But our backwardness existed from the early days, with people refusing constitutional changes because they didn't want this one or the next one to be chief minister. The same reason we couldn't get our own speaker. Today I am proud of the many of the changes in our country, though some has not been easy to come by. When I came here, our seniors and others in need only received $25 per month. And today, it's $850 per month. That's just to one group. Successive governments took my lead and has treated that group tremendously better. Higher education scholarships were nearly non-existent in 1984. The Bankers Association gave one, and government gave very few, and cable and wireless gave some training to some of their staff. Canadian Imperial Bank, I think, also was giving some to their staff, as did CNB. Today, all that has changed. Many glass ceilings have been removed. One of my dictums as the First Minister of Labor was no scholarships, no work permits. No upward mobility, no work permits. And they said, well, how are you going to achieve that? I said, well, I will just go down to the immigration office, the labor work permit board, and tell them how I feel. Thank God I didn't have to do it. All of them, including Mr. Walker, took the point. No upward mobility, no work permits. I took some beating for that, being called dictator and communist. But I don't need to elaborate. Some of you are familiar with the struggle. Today, Dozens of scholarships, local and overseas, in the millions of dollars have been granted by our government and the private sector, who has done a greater job today in giving scholarships. And while there are yet problems in the better paying jobs, you can believe we have come a long, long way from those early days. Some of my treasured accomplishments was to get Health City established, to strongly support the construction of the community college, moving the building heights from 5 to 10 stories, getting the new road and other vehicle entrances into West Bay, my constituency. Although I must tell you that one of my disappointments was that I wasn't a dictator and got DART to get the East-West corridor done at the time. I was most proud also to have met Her Majesty the Queen in 1994 at the opening of our sports center in West Bay and introducing so many of our older persons who had come out to meet their Queen. And we can't forget how the older Caymanians have respected Her Majesty the Queen. In this first meeting of our Parliament, I will ring this warning bell. If you listen around, every conceivable complaint is being made on the radio show, mind you, on our own radio too, on social media and other mediums. I take note. I have listened to the best of the people and have adjusted my thoughts with an open mind to see what is the problems. People are concerned about matters. Some are listening to those who can complain good and have a gift of speaking. Those leading the charge against everything, it's not beneficial to anyone. They are prepared to act irresponsibly to get their way. And it has been said, if they can't have their way and be the captain, they will go in the engine room and wreck the engine. As I listen, I don't hear solutions. And my warning bell is this: if we Caymanians listen to what I'm hearing, and if that is the kind of Cayman of the future where the church being torn apart at times, and where government is derided at all levels, not just the politicians, but the civil servants as well. If that's the kind of future, then only God will save us. There are no solutions. And those listening must ask the question, have those people done anything to ever help anyone? They will talk about something not seen or felt in the abstract, and that when you check, they've done nothing but talk with nice, flowery language. Honorable members, if we do as they are advocating, those who have nothing will have less. Those who have some little thing will lose it. Take what I'm saying serious, regardless of how you think I am as a representative. In our island today, it seems there is this urging to demonstrate. They are urged to demonstrate about everything. They see it on television and think that Cayman is the same. But we are not. They say demonstrate against government, demonstrate against the courts, demonstrate against the LPB, demonstrate against the schools and teachers, and maybe demonstrate against the speaker too. And yet, it is plain as the nose on your face. This coalition government has done as good as can be expected, complicated with the effects of the virus as we must deal with now at this critical time. Now we are to be thankful and careful of where Cayman is at. The world has turned upside down, and chaotic. But our God has blessed these islands. If Cayman is destroyed in this arena of international disruption and uncertainty, Cayman will not survive. As I said, those who have will have less, and that might be taken from them. Those who have nothing will be impoverished. Tell your children and grandchildren, as I do mine, Cayman is the best place in the world unless you go to Kigoda, where there's nothing, and you will have nothing. Think of how bad off the people are in Honduras, San Andres, Providence, and Nicaragua after this hurricane season. Let us be thankful for what we have. Be thankful to Almighty God because it is Him that has blessed us and not we ourselves. Help those, think about it, where we have come from. Think about it and strive to take care of each of our own families. Help those that are really helpless. There are some things to straighten out, yes, but Cayman is into a good thing for the future. Think of how well we have survived this pandemic. That the opposition and government work together to save us. And the independents as well. We have worked together. Oh, they removed my hymnal. I wasn't going to sing, but I was going to remind you, as the English songwriter says, it is a favorite of mine, I feel the winds of God today. Today, I lift my sail. Thank you, Premier. Thank you for the cooperation you have given. Thank you, Leader of Opposition, for your cooperation and understanding, particularly in these times that we are faced when so much is demanded of the government, and we are still meeting the challenge. And should I dare say, thank God for the coalition. I promised I wasn't going to be too long. I hope I have kept my promise. Honorable members, much work to be done, but we are all up to the task or the fight, whatever you deem it. God bless you all in your deliberations.
Motion for suspension of the House for admission of His Excellency the Governor be moved by the Honorable Premier.
The Honorable the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You didn't do too badly in terms of time. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House do now suspend to invite His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, OBE, to address the state opening and first meeting of the new Parliament.
Question is that this Honorable House do suspend to invite His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Keith Roper, OBE, to deliver an address on the occasion of the state opening and first meeting of the Parliament. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. The House will suspend at this time.
Please be seated. Mr. Speaker, honourable members of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today is a historic day for the Cayman Islands. We come together to embrace changes to the Constitution that usher in a new Parliament and a new era of modernised processes of government befitting of a 21st century democracy. Agreeing constitutional modernisation is a significant achievement. In keeping with this historic moment, I am pleased to begin my contribution today by passing on warm congratulations from the UK. First, I am delighted to be able to read out a message on behalf of His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. It gives me great pleasure and pride to congratulate the people of the Cayman Islands on the agreement to reform and modernise your constitution and on the creation of your new parliament, which together represent an important moment for the strong and vibrant democracy that exists in the islands. Having such fond and special memories of our visit to the Cayman Islands in March 2019, and of the remarkable warmth of the welcome we so touchingly received, my wife and I particularly wanted to send the new members of Parliament and all the people of the Cayman Islands whom they represent our warmest wishes and to say how much you are all in our thoughts at this time. Secondly, the UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has asked me to read out the following message to mark this occasion. I would like to congratulate the people of the Cayman Islands on their constitutional reforms, which signal how far they have come in developing into a mature democracy. New powers come with a heavy burden of responsibility, which no politician should bear lightly. But I am confident that the members of the Cayman Islands Parliament will build upon the successes of recent decades, which have propelled the islands forward as a modern democracy working in partnership with the United Kingdom. Finally, I am very pleased that Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon, who was the UK Minister for the Overseas Territories at the start of the negotiations, also sends his good wishes. He said, I am delighted that the constitutional reforms are now coming into effect. This signals another step forward by the people of the Cayman Islands to advance the vibrant democracy they have built as the foundation for prosperity, which shines as an example to others across the Caribbean. I congratulate the Honourable Premier, who played a pivotal role and leaves these changes as part of his substantial legacy. I also congratulate the then Leader of the Opposition, current Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and other members of the negotiating team for the role they played in securing a successful negotiation. Those messages underline the highly constructive UK-Cayman dialogue on constitutional change that brought us to this point today. As the UK Minister said at the recent Joint Ministerial Council virtual meeting, the constitutional talks with Cayman were a role model for how such talks should be conducted, and one other territories could follow. The Cayman delegation demonstrated cross-party agreement and unity at those talks, which had a powerful impact on the UK and the success of the negotiations. I was pleased to play a role myself as observer in December 2018, shortly after I was appointed as governor at the end of October 2018. I have worked closely with the Premier since then to ensure that the process moved forward, including navigating the inevitable delays caused by COVID. As well as becoming only the third overseas territory to have a parliament, Cayman is now the first overseas territory with a constitutional provision requiring the UK to consult the Premier and Cabinet before any UK orders in Council are passed. This is now being made available to all overseas territories who have Cayman to thank for that advance. The other changes make clearer Cayman's autonomy in domestic affairs, which I have and will continue to respect fully. Work to establish a police service commission, which both the police commissioner and I welcome, has already been set in hand. It will provide valuable external advice, strengthening good governance and oversight of our police service. The negotiating team and I had all hoped that as part of these changes, Section 81 of the Constitution, setting out the reserved power of the governor, could fall away. As this House is aware, I was instructed to use those powers earlier this year to give assent to the civil partnership law, and in doing so, ensure Cayman's compliance with the rule of law and international obligations. Because of that, the UK decided it wished to retain that power for the time being. Its use was exceptional and rare, reflecting the specific circumstances that also arose from the UK's international legal obligations under the European Convention on Human Rights. It is incorrect, as some have suggested, to see its use as implying more activism on the part of the UK, nor should its retention in any way detract from the significant achievements embodied in the other arrangements. Edmund Burke, a prominent 18th century parliamentarian, once said, "Parliament is not a congress of ambassadors from different and hostile interests, which interests each must maintain as an agent and advocate against other agents and advocates. But Parliament is a deliberative assembly of one nation with one interest, that of the whole, where not local purposes, not local prejudices ought to guide, but the general good resulting from the general reason of the whole." And Winston Churchill reminded us that the first duty of a member of Parliament is to do what he or she thinks, in faithful and disinterested judgment, is right and necessary for the honour and safety of his country. His second duty is to his constituents, of whom he is the representative, but not the delegate. It is only in the third place that his duty to party organisation or programme takes rank. All these three loyalties should be observed, but there is no doubt of the order in which they stand under any healthy manifestation of democracy. I believe those wise words apply just as much today and can provide inspiration to present and future members of Parliament as to the importance and weight of their role. As COVID-19 continues to rage around us, our islands remain in the enviable position of being largely COVID-free. We have many people to thank for that, from the Honourable Premier, the Minister for Health, and all Cabinet members for their leadership, our Attorney General and his team, our brilliant medical staff and officials, and the public who faithfully supported the decisions of the government. I thank honourable members of the opposition for their contribution, including the honourable leader of the opposition who attended meetings of our hazard management national executive. And I thank the hardworking staff in my office who, like so many in Team Cayman, went the extra mile for everybody on these islands. We owe everyone a debt of gratitude for getting us to the relative normality in which we find ourselves today. I believe Cayman can look to the future with optimism, confident that we can build back the economy better. With the UK's support, we should soon be in a position to offer a vaccine against COVID to the people of Cayman. Despite concerns in some quarters about vaccines, a strong uptake by the public will be needed as our clearest route out of this global health emergency. Our health professionals strongly recommend that we take it to protect everyone in our community, particularly our elderly and most vulnerable. As leaders, we all have a responsibility to do so and to be seen to do so. Cayman has never sought or needed direct financial support from the UK. That is a proud record, and I know it is one the Premier and his government are keen to maintain. The UK does, of course, provide, through my office and at Cayman's request, technical support in a wide range of areas. In the last 4 years alone, Cayman has received over £6.3 million in funding and technical support from the UK in areas such as criminal justice, law enforcement, prisons, governance and public sector reform, public health, child safeguarding, maritime and border security, air operations, environment, and disaster management. The UK recognises that such targeted assistance in specific areas can support the overseas territories gain access to expertise, which is not always available in smaller territories. I remain full of respect and admiration for how effectively Cayman provides such a vast array of services to the community here, without the advantages that many larger countries enjoy because of size, scale, and resources. The support the UK provides is part of the strong, mature, and constructive partnership that exists between our two governments. I will continue to work hard to nurture that relationship, which brings mutual benefits. One of the most obvious areas where the UK has offered support in recent times has been in the establishment of the Cayman Islands Regiment, an offer made a little over a year ago by the then Minister for the Armed Forces during a visit here. With the strong support of the Premier and Cabinet, we made fast progress despite COVID, and the regiment is on a trajectory toward full operational capability by next August. Many Caymanians have joined as reservists, and some have had the opportunity to train at Sandhurst. This is a truly visible sign of the strong partnership that exists between Cayman and the UK. And many young Caymanians have signed up, as membership offers a wonderful opportunity not only to serve their country, but also to develop new and transferable skills. And that was tested recently as Storm Eta passed through and members of the regiment were deployed to evacuate vulnerable people from flooded homes. They performed with distinction. We can all be proud of the start the regiment has made. I would like to thank the Police Commissioner and all members of the RCIPS for genuinely outstanding work over the last year. COVID presented uniquely challenging circumstances, but they rose to the occasion. It may not be a typical year, but excluding COVID-related offences, crime is down overall by 13%. That is to be celebrated. We continue to enjoy peace and security that is the envy of many countries in the region. I would also like to single out the prison director and his staff for the highly impressive response to COVID this year, minimising its impact and introducing innovative policies to maintain contact between prisoners and families. All our emergency services have performed magnificently, including our fire service dealing with the biggest and most dangerous fire in generations. We are fortunate indeed to have people with such dedication, skills, and commitment to support our community at times of difficulty. I will continue to support the many institutions and commissions that uphold our good governance, including our independent, effective, and highly respected judiciary, which also demonstrated impressive innovation in administering justice this year, particularly during the period of restrictions and lockdowns. The 2017 general election marked the introduction of single-member constituencies, which culminated in the election of 19 members of the Legislative Assembly. In less than 6 months, the May 2021 general election will see voters casting ballots in the first Cayman Islands parliamentary elections. Cayman has a strong track record of holding free and fair elections. to ensure the high standards of our democratic processes are upheld. Our excellent team at the Cayman Islands Elections Office are continuing their work to plan and deliver well-run general elections in line with international electoral standards. Policies around climate change and the environment are quite properly devolved under the Constitution to the Cayman Islands government. However, at the request of the Honourable Premier and Minister Hugh, I am exploring how UK technical expertise and experience can support Cayman's objectives in this area. Despite the financial challenges that the pandemic has brought about globally, climate change and the environment remain a top priority for the UK, which today announced a target of reducing its own carbon emissions by 68% by 2030, based on 1990 levels. That is the most ambitious target of any country in the world. I am delighted that the UK and Cayman are entering into a partnership to take forward work in this area. The partnership will cover work in key areas, including support on assessing and updating the risks that climate change poses to our islands, renewable energy, and protecting biodiversity, including our coral reefs. As we look towards the climate change conference, COP26, hosted in Glasgow next year by the UK, we must ensure that the voices of Cayman and the region's small island states are heard. My thanks, as ever, go to our outstanding Deputy Governor, Frans Manderson, and his high-quality Chief Officer team for work in leading an increasingly world-class civil service, and with whom I work very closely. Both the Deputy Governor and I were very proud of the way so many civil servants stepped up during the pandemic, volunteering for roles outside their remit to support the people of our islands. A team across government recently won the UK Association of Project Management's award for the Social Project of the Year for the way in which they set up the field hospital at the Family Life Centre. This international recognition for one element of Team Cayman's COVID response is a very tangible demonstration of a world-class civil service in action. 2 years into my tenure here as governor, my commitment to Cayman remains unswerving. I will continue to advance Cayman's interests to the utmost of my capability, balancing those against the UK's constitutional obligations. In the last year, I am proud to have supported Cayman on financial services, constitutional change, and the Cayman Islands Regiment, working closely with the Honourable Premier to do our best for the people of these wonderful islands. My relationship with the Premier and his ministers is a strong partnership based on trust and openness, which I believe is to the benefit of these islands. As I have stressed since arriving, I urge everyone to treat all in our community with courtesy, dignity, and respect. Demonstrate Cayman kind at all times, not least in these difficult times we are living through, and maintain the highest standards of integrity and personal behaviour. In the second half of my tour here, I will continue to be as open and accessible as I've strived to be over the last 2 years. I will continue to support our wonderful community as much as I can. There may also be 1 or 2 more performances of the Steel Pan, and I am proud, despite a serious lack of musical talent, to have somehow succeeded in increasing my repertoire from 3 tunes to 4 tunes. Thanks, of course, to Cayman's Man of Steel, Earl Lapierre. In conclusion, Cayman has done incredibly well in managing the pandemic. There is so much for the people of these islands to be proud about. I believe the future looks bright for Cayman as we build back better and, I hope, greener after COVID. Cayman is a beacon of excellence amongst the overseas territories and the wider region. It is one of, if not the best place in the Caribbean in which to live, work, and invest. As you embark on a new chapter with the new Parliament, it is an opportunity to step back and look with pride at what Cayman has achieved in recent decades. I send heartfelt best wishes to all members of Parliament and to the new parliamentary secretaries who will be appointed today, as you all continue your noble and vital work to make the lives of everyone here even better. God bless all of you and all the people of these wonderful Cayman Islands. Honourable Premier. Yeah, give me that. Just give me that.
Mr. Speaker, please rise.
Please be seated. This Honorable House resumes its sitting. Honorable members, I do take note, and late as it is, the presence of our distinguished guest, and I do welcome all of you. Among you are our Chief Justice and his good wife, and former speakers, Lawrence and Pearson, and former members of the House. Welcome to all of you to what is a great day for our Cayman Islands.
Motion of thanks to His Excellency, the Governor.
The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that it be resolved that this honorable Parliament records its grateful thanks to His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, OBE, for the gracious address delivered at this state opening and first sitting of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands. And I would beg your indulgence.
Before you do,
A few.
let me read the resolve. Be it resolved that this honorable Parliament records its grateful thanks to His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin K. Roper, OBE, for the gracious address delivered at this state opening and first sitting of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands. The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, continuing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I shall not be as long as yourself. I will try my best to be as surgical as possible.
Sorry, I couldn't be that.
I have heard 2 reports haven't been made, so I shall try to be short. And please forgive me if I do not go into the minutiae of these changes this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, Mark Twain once said that the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. I am sure that you will agree that each of us, as God's children, has a purpose on this earth. And Mr. Speaker, just as each of us as individuals has a purpose, we must also agree that collectively, as a people and a country, we must have a collective purpose. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask the question, what is the collective purpose of all of us who call the Cayman Islands home? Before answering that question, I think it is important to put a few things in perspective in the short time I have here today. Mr. Speaker, on the discovery of these 3 islands in 1503, history recorded them as uninhabited. Much has happened since. I won't get into those particulars, as one of the members who came here when I did, I will borrow a few words from him, as there is no future in the past. Mr. Speaker, whilst I think that it is important for us to understand and remember who we were yesterday, I am sure that you would agree that who we are today is more important. And even more important is where we expect to be tomorrow. So let us fast forward to 2020. Today, these islands are the envy of many. That has come through the process of a slow march into the future, promulgated and carefully executed by past leaders for the benefit of future generations. It can therefore be said that every generation of Caymanians, with deliberate action, advances the development of these islands for the next generation. This march has come about out of the knowledge that we have always found ourselves disadvantaged by our circumstances. Circumstances such as our geographic location, and importantly, the fact that our natural resources are limited except for that of our people. So, generation after generation has used its creativity, understanding of our uniqueness, tenacity, and good old common sense to create one of the most advanced countries in the Western Hemisphere, despite our small population. Mr. Speaker, we have all applauded the advances in our governance structure over the years, in particular over the last 60 years. There are many who question the validity of such advancement and whether our people have advanced in tandem. Mr. Speaker, using the 2019 statistics, the Cayman Islands have a GDP per capita that puts us in the top 5 on this planet. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, of the 200 plus countries that call this planet home, the Cayman Islands have a GDP per capita that would be the envy of many countries. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that GDP per capita means nothing when considering that close to 40% of our working population makes less than $30,000 per year in a country that have one of the highest cost of living in the world. While our GDP per capita is a quantitative measure of our economy, when we examine a quantitative measure such as the Human Development Index, which looks at achievements in key dimensions of human development such as a long and healthy life, being knowledgeable and having a decent standard of living, the Cayman Islands ranks about 30. In essence, Mr. Speaker, the economy is doing well, but it has not translated into an equivalent standard of living for our people. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution is a mere 11 years old. Yet today we are recognizing the Second Amendment thereto. That in and of itself, tells us that as time moves on in the life of any country, the people must embrace and be willing allies of change in order to progress. Our people have been asked many times to trust their leaders with changes to the premier law that governs them. And they have, by and large, trusted their leaders with proposals to enhance the governance autonomy. Mr. Speaker, that trust that has been reposed in successive leaders has resulted in a country that is the envy of many, lest it be misunderstood. This success cannot be attributed to generational Caymanians only. Indeed, we have welcomed many to our shores who have played a crucial role in this advancement. They have worked side by side with us. Sometimes the road was tumultuous, but we all understood that to survive in this world of uncertainty, we had to put our backs to the wheel. Despite the unprecedented challenges, we have come out on the other side much better than we started. Mr. Speaker, while this journey can be viewed as successful, unfortunately, men have fallen by the wayside simply because of the lack of opportunity. They will never share in the success if we do not now turn our attention to the concept that a rising tide lifts all boats. Mr. Speaker, I speak here not only of generational Caymanians. There are, as they are commonly referred to, new Caymanians, who are also included in those who have lost their way and must be included in the journey of inclusiveness if we are to continue to achieve the success of the past. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, a new cadre of leaders will take over leadership in less than 6 months. And I dare say that they will be tasked with an uncertain future that has been visited upon us by a global pandemic. However, they must also chart a new direction which will ensure that those who have been left behind over the years are given every opportunity to equally enjoy the spoils of this success story. They must strive to eliminate the often repeated cliche, who are we developing for? Mr. Speaker, our goal in this new dispensation must be one Cayman. Mr. Speaker, it is indeed ironic that during the quincentennial of our discovery, we were challenged by one of the most devastation ever experienced by our people, Ivan. Like the phoenix, we rose from the ashes, demonstrating yet again our resilience and determination. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, in some respects, we have ignored the significance of that event and not made adequate plans for the future. Mr. Speaker, the time has come. We are now faced with yet another opportunity to press the reset button and plan for the development of our people. Mr. Speaker, just as we have moved this legislature through various stages of autonomy necessary to advance our country, I submit that we must now plan for the future, and we in the official opposition would like to call that plan One Cayman. Mr. Speaker, that plan must reflect the wishes and dreams of our people, wishes and dreams that they embraced and approved in May 2009, when they exercised their democratic right to accept this very constitution we amend today. We in the official opposition believes the preamble of this 2009 constitution accurately reflects who our people are and must be used as the basis of any plan for the future. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to pause here to briefly address two other matters that hold a prominent place in the meaning of autonomy and empowerment as it relates to our country and its people, and in this case, of our own. Firstly, the separation of powers. Just weeks ago, this Parliament took the decision to record in law the removal of the administration of its affairs from the executive. In so doing, the Parliament now has responsibility for its day-to-day administration and financial matters, thereby ensuring that the last blurred line between the three arms of government has been eliminated forever. This is to become effective on January 1st, 2021. The only remaining thing to do is to amend the standing orders to bring them in line with current and new practices. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is the need for a wholesale review of our election process. Mr. Speaker, many Caymanians have had much to say about the need for a review of the election law. I personally join that chorus, and so too does the official opposition. At least three areas come immediately to mind. One, the removal of electors from the electors' register. This country is one of very few in the world that removes from its register electors who have been living elsewhere for a certain period of time preceding an election. Their absence does not mean that they have any less interest in or are any less informed about the political landscape of this country than those who are here. In fact, the contrary may be the case. Two, qualification for elected membership, especially based on the time spent within the country, needs immediate review also. We all saw the outcome of the election challenge mounted in 2013. These qualification requirements are dated and need to be eliminated now. Too many otherwise eligible Caymanians have been disenfranchised from participating in the democratic process as a result of these draconian provisions. Of course, Mr. Speaker, this too will require constitutional change. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I may take the prize for being the loudest voice advocating for an elections commission. An elections commission will correct another process in this long and arduous journey of autonomy. Currently, the election process is directed by the executive as part of the governor's responsibility. This is no longer the case in progressive democracies around the world. While our country can boast of a history of fair elections, implementation of a commission would remove the administration of the elections process from civil servants and put it in the hands of an autonomous constitutional authority. Mr. Speaker, it is said that one does not know when one is creating history. I believe that when the history of this country is penned, today will occupy a special place on its pages and will be chronicled as one of the many steps to protect the people of these islands and our slow 500+ years walk towards greater autonomy and the governance of our people. I and members of the official opposition would like to record our gratitude and appreciation to our constituents for having been given the opportunity to participate in this historic milestone, and most importantly, answer the question I posed at the beginning. What is the collective purpose of all of us who call the Cayman Islands home? Mr. Speaker, the answer is simple. To work together for the creation of a peaceful and prosperous, God-fearing country in which everyone will have an equal opportunity to live their best life, not just survive. Mr. Speaker, my last act here today is to warmly congratulate my colleagues, and in particular the Premier. But that includes also the Deputy Governor and the Attorney General, who does not create any soapbox around here. Congratulate them on being the very first members of Parliament of the Cayman Islands. And this first sitting of Parliament. I encourage you all to never underestimate its significance. Unlike those who came before us, remember our journey and the responsibility that we have to those who will eventually follow us and occupy these hallowed halls. Mr. Speaker, may it please you, and I pray God's blessings upon the people of these beloved islands.
Address by the Honorable Premier.
The Honorable, the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I start my address, I want to join the chorus of warmly welcoming the many people who are here in the gallery and in the chamber, including former speakers and former members, ministers, and members of this honorable house. We recognize full well the sacrifice you have made to leave your work or other engagements in the middle of the day to come and celebrate with us on this auspicious occasion. I also want to offer apologies on behalf of the Minister for Finance and Economic Development, who is quarantining within the confines of his home, having just returned from having surgery in the United States. I want that, Mr. Speaker, to serve as an example to all who have the obligation to quarantine, that even on an occasion as auspicious as this, a member of the Parliament our historical and political relationship with the United Kingdom, but to also provide the ability for that relationship to mature. Today, we gather to witness one more aspect of that maturity. The change of the Legislative Assembly to become the House of Parliament is symbolic of the United Kingdom's recognition of our growing maturity. It also reflects on our achievements as a people and as a nation. I hope that everyone here today and everyone who visits or just looks upon this building in the months and years to come will reflect on just how far we have come as a people and as a nation in the last 61 years. During that time, we have gone through several changes in our constitutional arrangements. Each has represented a progression toward greater local autonomy and increased responsibility for our affairs. In the many years since the adoption of the 1972 Constitution, we have moved from the Executive Council or Cabinet and the Legislative Assembly being merely advisory bodies to the governor, who was the ultimate decision maker for all matters, to the position today where Cabinet and Parliament have, within the confines of the Constitution, exclusive responsibility for local affairs and local laws. So the progress toward more local autonomy continues with the changes to our Constitution that were agreed by the Privy Council last month. The change we are celebrating today, the redesignation of the Legislative Assembly as a parliament, is rightly the centerpiece of the constitutional amendment order. This is a proper reflection of the work that members do in this building and a proper reflection of our national self-confidence and ability to run our own affairs. But it also carries with it other benefits. This administration, as did the last one that I led, has made it a priority to increase Cayman's profile overseas. That is about Cayman being more assertive in promoting and protecting our interests, but it is also crucial as we look at the future of our islands and our ability to attract and retain the drivers of future economic growth and prosperity. As we deal more directly with members of foreign governments and foreign business leaders, it helps that members can call themselves members of parliament. Quite simply, it just carries more weight with those with whom we are dealing and opens more doors to us as we look to open our doors to new opportunities. As well as the establishment of our own parliament for the first time, these constitutional amendments include changes that are important both symbolically and in terms of the substantive enhancement of Caymanian self-government that they bring. I will highlight 4 of those today. First and foremost is the clear constitutional recognition of the primacy of our new parliament and the cabinet in all matters of domestic policy, and the consequent requirement now placed on the United Kingdom government to consult Cayman on all legislation before the House of Commons that directly impacts these islands. This is the first time that the United Kingdom has made such a concession in the constitution of an overseas territory. It is highly significant as it provides us with the opportunity to influence United Kingdom legislation before it gets into the public domain and political positions are fixed. While this provision does not prevent the enactment of legislation that may not be in Cayman's best interests, this amendment significantly reduces the likelihood of such detrimental provisions being imposed upon us. Secondly, the governor's power to approve the standing orders of our new parliament has been removed. This amendment stands alongside the legislation we enacted in the last meeting of the old Legislative Assembly to give the legislature, not the executive, the control over the administration and staffing and resources of the parliament. Together, these changes mean that our new parliament is itself a properly autonomous, sovereign institution, able to determine its affairs and answerable to the people it serves, not the executive. Thirdly, the new constitution order allows the creation of a police service commission to act as an independent voice in the appointment of senior officers in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. I have repeatedly paid tribute to the work the current commissioner has done to restore confidence in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service among local communities. By creating an independent voice in senior appointments, this change represents a further step in ensuring that the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service continues to be a locally responsive and accountable organization. Finally, the change to become a parliament also means that we are now able to replace the role of councillors with that of formally appointed parliamentary secretaries. This affords proper recognition to the hard work of those elected members who work with ministers to do so much to ensure the effective delivery of government priorities. I know from the experience of the last 7 years how much I and my elected cabinet colleagues have depended upon the support we have had from councillors. I thank them on behalf of all of my cabinet colleagues for what they have done, and we look forward to working with them in their new enhanced roles. So, with their recent constitution enhancements, the United Kingdom is acknowledging both the status of our legislative body and the right of Cayman to determine its future by advancing the Constitution. We are rightly celebrating these achievements today. The last 61 years have shown that we cannot assume that our Constitution is fixed and that no further change is necessary. On the contrary, our development as a nation will continue, and further constitutional change will be necessary to keep pace. I have said before, and I say again this afternoon, that I regard independence for Cayman to be as inevitable as my own death. But like my own death, I hope it not to be soon. For the immediate future, I believe Cayman's best interests are served by staying as a member of the United Kingdom family. Not just our economic success, but our culture and traditions are bound up in being part of the United Kingdom family. But I would also add that as the United Kingdom prepares to leave the EU and seek a new place in the world as global Britain, that it too has a renewed appreciation for the value of its overseas territories as a part of the British family. The renewed appreciation of the OTs must include an appreciation that we, like other nations that form a part of the British family, should be allowed to take greater responsibility for decisions that affect our people. I have noted on several occasions in conversations with United Kingdom ministers, UK parliamentarians, and FCO officials over the years, including at the recent virtual Joint Ministerial Council meeting, that if the United Kingdom indeed wishes to retain her overseas territories over the long term, it is important that she continues to loosen the apron strings. Increasingly across all of the overseas territories, our populations tend to bristle when they perceive the United Kingdom government is telling us what to do. The idea of a partnership of progress and prosperity is important, but it also needs to include mutual understanding and respect. If the United Kingdom wishes to avoid driving the territories to choose independence, particularly before they are ready, then it must allow the overseas territories greater autonomy over our own destinies. This includes the ability for the territories to make our own mistakes and to learn from them. The United Kingdom must not feel that it is bound to intervene every time it believes that a territory has made or is making a mistake. On the other hand, those of us who govern in the overseas territories must accept that if we expect greater autonomy, then with that comes greater responsibility and the need for the courage to make difficult and at times unpopular decisions. The decisions we make must have the maximum respect for the rule of law. The constitutional amendments that have been made starting in 2009 have given our islands a great degree of self-government. But as I've said, there is equally no doubt in my mind that further change will be necessary. As His Excellency the Governor knows, I believe that despite the important changes that we are celebrating today, the Constitution still retains some provisions that could most charitably be described as anachronistic. I still believe the retention of Section 81, allowing the Governor to legislate directly in areas of the Governor's special responsibilities, is one such provision that needs to be abolished. However, the United Kingdom government has made clear that as they have had to recently use the provision, they have determined that now is not the time to remove it. I truly hope that a future government, Cayman government, can persuade the United Kingdom that despite its misgivings, this section must go. As the United Kingdom and His Excellency the Governor are aware, I still believe fervently that the Cayman Islands Cabinet must come to be chaired by the Premier, who holds the highest elected representative office in the territory. If it were ever in doubt, this most recent Constitution Amendment order makes it absolutely clear that the Cayman Islands Cabinet has autonomous responsibility for domestic policy. As such, it is a real anomaly and indeed a contradiction in terms that the United Kingdom appointed governor still presides over cabinet, a cabinet of which the governor is not a member and in which he or she has no vote. It is said that this provision is important in enabling the governor to properly discharge his or her role. In arguing otherwise, I should make clear that I have nothing but respect for Governor Roper personally and for the office he holds. Indeed, I have come to regard him as a good friend and a most excellent governor. My position on this issue is one of principle. Indeed, Governor Roper is the fourth governor that has chaired cabinet since I have been premier. However, I believe the governor can and should fulfill his or her responsibility without the need to assume a role that is naturally and logically that of the premier. I say that, Mr. Speaker, after 7.5 years in that role, and fully cognizant that I have but 6 months to go. So this is not a case I am making for myself. My issue, Mr. Speaker, as I have said, is that the governor chairing cabinet actively detracts from the position of the elected government having primacy over our domestic affairs that the rest of the Constitution now enshrines. I hope that a future premier will convince the United Kingdom government to correct the situation and make the necessary change to allow the premier to chair his or her cabinet. No doubt when that day comes, there will be other adjustments to be made. Ours is a living constitution, not a dusty parchment to be viewed under glass by children on a school visit to a museum. It will continue to evolve as our nation continues to grow. Neither we nor the United Kingdom should be afraid to make further necessary changes. But those are matters for the future. Today, we are here to celebrate a landmark achievement in our constitutional journey with the designation of a legislature